this tutorial looks at putting together and creating Facebook pages. There's not an awful lot to it really. It's a fairly straightforward process, but there are a few things worth looking at and keeping an eye on once you're doing it. Once you're in your Facebook profile, you just simply click on create up here. Okay, you can click create or click pop down, and then you can add new page, see more, add pages. Okay, or simply just click create here, same thing. Create a page. This will show you all the pages that you have created already, and you can manage them all separately. So click create a page. The first option you're given is it a business or a brand, or is it a community or a public figure? As it turns out, you can change these after, so it's not as if this is a definitive question as such. So it depends on what your what category your concept falls into. So in our case here, what I'm doing is I'm going in walk with me, and I'm going to put a personal blog in here. But I could put in a business, and I could put in, recreational website as well. So that kind of thing could work well as well. So, it's not the end of the world which one you pick here. And then it will ask you to continue. And then we're into, making this thing look nice and making sure that our profile pictures and our documentation and our names and all the rest of these things are as optimized as possible. So in this case here, you can add a profile picture, which is very important. And again, we're going to use the walk with me image, and you can find an appropriate image to go up here as well. You can change this on a regular basis, depending on what's going on, depending on the time of year, depending on, events that you're trying to promote, etc. And it's no harm in doing so. You can actually put in a slideshow up here, which will include, so it'll go through a number of different things as well, which is a good way of promoting maybe upcoming events and different things that you might have set up. We'll talk about adding a button later on as well. So upload a photograph. Again, it's got to be optimized, okay? And we're going to look in a minute or two about the sizes of these particular images. This one has to be 180 by 180, so it's a square image obviously, and it's got to be that size. So optimize that. So when you look at these are the dimensions at present. They do change regularly enough, as it turns out, so it's no harm looking them up to see what they're expecting at different times. Okay, so everything from your profile picture up here from 180 by 180 to a cover photograph on a desktop device which is 828 by 315, or a mobile device is 560 by 315, and then the different size images we should be using down along here. And it is good that we optimize these and we get them right, because it is about trying to make it look as well as we possibly can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do those few steps that I talked about a second ago in PowerPoint. I'm going to do them live now, and I'm going to then resize my images for here and here and just put them in and see how the whole thing looks, and then we'll move on from here. Here's my page. I'm just going to go create, and I go create page. So I'm just using the other method here. So in the last one here, I went into community or public figure. I can get started in here and go in here into brand or business and type in walk with me. Okay, and I might put in recreational sports website. Okay, and then continue. Now, actually telling me that I've already got one called Walk With Me. So I'm going to put in Walk With Me in Ireland. It's creating this. Asked me to upload a profile picture. So with this in mind, I can upload any picture I want. So I've got ones already in blog posts here, and I've got one here, but I want to resize it to make sure it's right. Okay, so there's no point in me putting in an image which is, has to be stretched, or it's too big for what it needs to be. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cancel this for a second, and I'm going to go back to my old trusty Be Funky website, and again, as I said to you before, if you're using Photoshop or something like that, you can of course play around with that and use that. Of course, this is just if you don't have an actual package to do that. So starting new, I'm going to open up an image from my computer. I'm going to go to blog posts here, and I'm going to upload this large Walk With Me large image. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to resize it. That's really what I'm going to do here. As you can see, it is a very large image. It's 1638 by 1638. So it is square. I don't need to change the dimensions. So I'm just going to literally type in 180. And, you know, because I have this aspect ratio locked, this should change to 180 as well. And I'm just going to say I'm happy with that. So I've resized my image. I'm going to save it. I'm going to call this I'm deliberately brightening out Facebook here for this because another profile image which I'll use might be Instagram, which might be a slightly different size. In this case, it's not, but it could be something else like Twitter. We might want to resize it as well. So I'm going to save this. Now, after saving it, I imagine into my downloads. So let's see here if it has. Move that into my blog post, okay? And I'm going to go back to Facebook and add that, upload it, profile picture, blog posts. You see I'm putting them all into the one folder. The reason for that is if I need to resize something later on, I know where they are. They're not scattered throughout my machine here. So Walk With Me, okay, put that in there. Upload a cover photograph, okay? Now, the cover photograph I'm going to use is, I'm going to use a large one down along here, the Wicklow way, one of these ones here, but I'm going to resize it again. And the resize that I want it to be is, just to recap here, I'm going to go back to PowerPoint for a second here, and it's 828 by 315. So 828 by 315. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get obviously a larger image in 828 by 315 and resize it, maybe crop it down to 828 by 315, the same way we did with other images before. But I'm going to take this one here. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go to Be Funky and take that one there. So okay, now I'm just going to click resize on this one here, and you'll see that the image is now 4088 by 2299. And what I want it to be is, I forgot, 828 by 315. Okay, so 828 by 315. And what I'm going to do here is, instead of resizing it, I'm going to crop it. So I'm going to put in my size here for 828. As you can see, it's a very small size here, so that really isn't getting much of this image for me. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to resize it here, and I'm going to put in 828. And then what I've done is I've made it 828 wide, and it's now 466 high. So what I'm going to do now is, rather than, if I took that off and type in 315 here, it will skew my image. Okay, now I can do that, but I advise you against that. So I'm just going to save that. That's 828 wide. Then I'm going to go crop it. I'm going to go 828, which is the full width, by 315, which is here. And I'm going to be able to then take a section of this image. And that's the section I'm going to take. Now I can move this up and down and take whatever. So I'm going to take something nice like that, which takes a nice little bit of sky, but also puts in this way marker in there, which is kind of really what I wanted to do. And I'm just going to save that, okay? And I'm going to, happy enough with that, save this to my computer. I'm going to call it lug Facebook header. Okay, I'm going to save that. Now, as I saw before, this saves it into my downloads. So I'm going to just take that lug Facebook header and move it into my blog posts. Okay. Now, with that done, I've all my imagery sized. I'm happy enough. I'm going to go back into Facebook now and upload my cover photograph, which is called lug You can never see these things when you want to. Here we are, lug Facebook header. And put that in, and it should be nicely resized. Now, you know, what I have here now is I have Walk With Me. I have Walk With Me in Ireland over here. I can create a username, which mine should be at Walk With Me in Ireland. Okay. I can add a button, which I will do, and I can add, of course, good content. But before we do any of that, we really should start looking at the page settings and so on. So I'm just going to go back to PowerPoint, go through them there, and then do them for real here. So. So I've got my header and my cover photograph of my profile picture looking quite nice there now at the moment. You can create a slideshow by just going add cover, and you can put in several photographs. Now, my advice would always be to do exactly what we did. Go into Be Funky, resize them all to the right size, so at least you can control exactly what people see and the resolution at which people see them at, which is very important. So editing the page information, this is something that every single one of us should do, okay? So the whole idea of a description, you get in keywords again, so therefore you're found, or hopefully found using SEO and Google, okay? Phone numbers if you have them, websites if you have them. You know, in our case here, you know, it's very important that we include a website here. We could, of course, if we don't have a website, we might have a blog address that we might want to link to. If we have an email address, you should include that. If you have an actual street address, you should include that. Again, people can find us. If I have a HQ in Glenbarrow, I should include that. So all of these things are very straightforward. The hours, what you'll see here is you've got opening hours. Now, you know, if you're 9 to 5, Monday to Sunday, you know, well, then put those in. If you're off the weekend or whatever, put those in. We're talking about office hours here. You'll notice with the updated version right now, there is a section about COVID and whether things have changed since the pandemic. So you can put that in there. This section here are terms and conditions, your products, your mission, all of those things can be put in there. The more detailed, the better. That's what I'd say about this. You can click and add a button there for action. Now, my advice would be to do this because, again, it's real estate. Again, it allows you to be able to add something to it which will allow you to convert people. So you can have book with you, contact you, learn more, shop, download your app or play your game if you have an app. Okay, so those kind of things are really very simple, very cool, and again, add functionality to your Facebook page. Next one is simply add excellent content. That's really important. Okay, we've all seen that, you know, the content that we add to Facebook is extremely important, right? And obviously, you know, images and video are far more engaging than just plain text. So, but mix it up, test it. We'll have a look at insights in a few minutes to see how they work, see what's going on. Okay, click settings, and there's loads of settings we can have a look at here, like everything from age restrictions to country restrictions to visibility to what you're going to allow visitors to do on your website. Even things like, you know, right at the very bottom, it allows you to delete this particular page if you no longer use it or no longer want it to be seen or whatever. So there's loads of different things. Then there's page roles. Now, page roles, this is very useful if you're dealing with a group and you're updating this. You can change everyone to administrator, so therefore everybody has equal rights. So even though this page may have been created directly from your profile originally, everybody else on administrator would have the same rights as you have, and so on. So it makes it very easy, very much easier to manage. So that's exactly what you want here. And then there's linking your Instagram account and your WhatsApp as well on this as well. So there's lots of other things you can do. There's even templates that we can put in here. Now these templates, don't get too excited by them because while they are there, they're not the most versatile things. They change a few things on your view, but not an awful lot. But the one thing about page templates and tabs, it allows you to remove certain tabs which may not be of any consequence to you or your audience, and sometimes they're just plain confusing. So there's no point in having something there that you're not going to populate with good content, because you simply don't have it. So you might take those things out. So that's worth looking at. Okay. So country restrictions. For instance, this would be in the case of if I wanted two different pages, one for domestic people who are actually Irish and who are actually based in Ireland, and then other ones who are for international tourists. And I might have different tips and tricks and so on. So for instance, in my case here, it's not going to make a huge difference. But if, just say, I had different pricings, different contact details, different taxes, etc. for international clientele, well then I might create a different page for them as well. So therefore, they'll be served that if they're outside the country, and other ones will be served the other one if they're inside the country, and so on. Age restrictions, again, depending on if there's age restrictions on what your product or service are offering. Okay, so very important things. Click templates for this kind of thing here. And what these will do, the actual templates themselves, like I said, are fairly basic. But the tabs are quite interesting. Just say reviews, just say you don't want that. Well, you can go and click on settings and hide it. Just say you don't actually have events, you can click on and hide it. Or just say videos are really the most important thing, you want to move those to the top. So we can change the order of these things. We can delete them and we can add other ones. Okay. So last one here is whether you want to delete your page or not. The very last one here, remove your page, delete. There used to be a restriction on this where it took up to 2 weeks to delete, but now they do it fairly quickly. You can also take it offline, which means that while it's not deleted, it's not visible to other people, which is another option. Okay, jumping back into, I'm going to go into the actual live version of this for a second here. We'll have a look at this. So create a username. If I have the username and it's just say, okay, create username, and it'll create that. Now, it puts that in there. Now, the funny thing about Facebook is sometimes you have to do certain things in order to get privileges to do other things, and actually adding a an actual handle like this in their username is one of the things that is quite important to look at. So adding a button here, if I wanted to contact you, it's just simply send an email, send a message, WhatsApp, call now. So you have different options. Book with you, book now, and you can then go on to the next one. It'll show you how you can do that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to contact us, send an email. Okay, next, and add an email address, and my email address, I'm going to type it in here. And then save that. Okay, so that's finished. And when I look at this literally from a user's perspective here, it'll show me what the user will see. Okay, so again, if I go see more here, these are all the tabs that I have at the moment. Now, if I don't want some of these tabs, I can remove them. Now, some of them it will not let you remove, such as community and so on. But other ones you have a little bit of control over. Okay, so I'm just going to click on likes, follows, shares, and you can see down along here, you've got different view as page visitor. Okay, view insights. Now I won't have any insights here, but I will look at another page of mine to see what the insights are and so on. Edit page info. Now that's something that is important for me to do here. So if I turn around here, I don't actually have a huge amount of stuff here. So I'm going to just start copying and pasting here really. Category, okay. Phone number I don't have. doesn't have a phone number. Save changes. Website, okay. Email address, I'm going to put in my email address. Website address. Then into Facebook here and paste it. Location, it doesn't have a street location, but if I had a HQ, well then I'd zoom in on it and undo that. Okay, service areas, how to get there and so on. So for instance, if we had a weekly walk that left Lara at whatever time, we might provide bus routes or whatever, how you get there and so on, or other methods. There aren't that many other methods, but anyway, you get these opening hours if you have them, okay? And as I said to you before, during the pandemic, they've added this other section, which is about the whole idea of, whether we're operating with different changes and so on, so we can put in those. And, if you have any terms and conditions, if you have any products that you want to sell, put them in there as well. So populate this information, populate this idea, populate this data throughout the hours and so on, okay? So, always a good thing. I'm just going to go into settings for a second here. I'm not going to spend too long in here because, we can just jump around and see what's going on here. But I am going to go into templates and tabs. And with this in mind, I'm going to have a look at the whole idea of, as I said here, if I change my template, edit, I can edit the template here like this. I can choose from a number of different templates. Now, there's not a huge difference between them. It mainly comes down to the tabs that it uses. But my advice would be for you to customize them rather than to let it just choose. You can do this if you want to, but you'll probably end up customizing your tabs anyway. So in our case here, these are the tabs that I have. If I don't want to have reviews, I go settings, I turn it off, okay? And then save. I can turn it back on later on if I want to by just adding tabs. If I don't have, for instance, I just say my about page, I want it to be off up here, okay? I don't have groups setting, I'm going to switch that off, okay? And then save. And in the case of community, it won't allow me to switch it off as I mentioned before. So I can add other tabs as well if I want to. Use default tabs on or off, okay? So now I've changed my tabs. If I don't, as I say, if I don't have events coming up or any events ever, I can switch that off. And if later on I want to change that, I can add events to it and so on. So it'll change the slight look and the feel of what's going on here. My page roles, as I said, I can add people to this. So if you're working in a group, this is what I would ask you to do because it's a good way of doing it. So you can see the admin and I can add other people. So just simply add it and invite them in and off they go. So really they're the different things that are important in this scenario here. So I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to have a look at my page, and really what I'm going to have a look at here is I'm going to have a look at my page info, right? My page info is looking okay at the moment as it turns out. And I'm going to go back to my page. Now, on top of this, you'll see here, if I see more here, you can see these down along here. My tabs are now customized. They're in the order that I want them to be. My about section, I would advise anyone here to go and add these stories to it because they actually do help. So, drag a photograph in here. If I turn around, upload a new photograph here, and I can turn around and say, listen, something like this one here. Okay, and then I can turn around and say, welcome to date on it. I can add some text. Now again, here's some I prepared earlier. And then publish. Okay. Now, this is taking a second, but anyway, it's having a good think about this, okay? So now there's my general information. I can, of course, edit this if I want to. I can change any of these that I want to. I can add more if I want to, and you can see different things here on menus if you had them and so on. Add yourself as a team member, and of course, if you have other ones that you've added in as page roles, you can add those to it as well, which is a good thing. It puts a face on these people, and that's always a good thing. So if I just go back to my home, what's important about this and you know what's nice about this is I can change my story as often as I want. So if I have an event coming up, I can change my story. And it's having a good think about moving back to home. But anyway, I can do all that, and my story will appear on my homepage eventually when it does actually cop on and move into it. Okay. The last thing I want to have a look at before I finish up is very simply the whole idea of insights. Now, at the moment, if I go into insights here, I don't have any because literally I only started today. There's nothing anywhere here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a page that actually has been up and running, and I'm going to go to insights here. And this is a local football club. So over the last number of months, there hasn't been much going on, so there hasn't been a huge amount of activity on the Facebook page either, but at least we can see what's going on here. So we can see an overview of the actions on the page views, the post reaches, the engagement that the posts have and so on. So if I want to drill down into these, I can see who my followers are and how many followers we have. Okay, so you can see I've got just over 5,000 here. 5,570 at the moment, okay? So you can see how the page followers go up and down. Again, because of, the pandemic, there hasn't been a huge amount of posts going up here, not a huge amount of activity on this and so on. So you can see posts reach, over 1,500, you see for certain posts. So you can see what those posts are in a minute. You can see which ones are working well for you and which ones maybe not so well. And you can see the spikes going along here. What we'd really like is kind of a flow rather than spiking up and down. But then again, as I said, we haven't had a huge amount of activity on the Facebook page in recent times. Okay, so page previews. These are showing you what's going on. Action on page. I'm going down to post now next because you'll probably see the most activity here. So with this, you can see my activity throughout the day. Now, you can also, it looks very strange here, 6 to 9 in the evening is the lowest time, but actually this is looking at the a different time zone as it turns out. So you can see here across my days, if I just go from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can see that the actual the pattern follows very, 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 very similar. Okay, now it might spike here and there, but it's very similar. Okay, you can also see, this is really important, you can see my posts, all right, and you can see the amount of reach that they've had. Now these ones are only out today as it turns out, so the reach wouldn't be as high as the rest of them, but you can see here one went out yesterday, there was a reach of 813. You can see the engagement, versus the likes and the shares and so on. Okay, but you can, if I go down here and if I went down to see more here and I actually went right back to when things are really happening, you can see here that there's a post there by Kevin Feely and David Hyland and Niall Kelly, and you can see here that 1.5 thousand reach, and you can see a lot more engagement level. Okay, so you can see here, and you might turn around and you see, well, why which ones are actually generating the most engagement. You can see why, and you might be able to learn from that. Events. I'm going to go back here a second and have to jump me to a different page and videos as well. So you can see the different levels of interactivity and the engagement that you've got there. And there's a huge amount of information, and this information will help us to make decisions going forward. And they're really, it's something that we should not ignore in any way, shape or form.